Hi, I'm the Space Quest historian, and welcome back to another extra episode of Season 3 of the Space Quest Historian podcast. I am recording this in my living room, so if there's an odd echo on the podcast, please excuse that. And I don't have a script I'm reading off, so this is just me waxing philosophically about anything that happens to come to mind. Let's see. Penguins are cute. I have a weird crimp in my neck, but that's probably because I just came off streaming on Twitch for the second time ever. That's my new thing I do every Wednesday. I stream on twitch.tv/SpaceQuestHistorian, but if you're listening to this today, which is the Wednesday of, October 19th, I just had to look in the corner of the screen there. If you're listening to this on October the 19th, the day that it came out, please do not go to twitch.tv/SpaceQuestHistorian and watch the 1 hour long stream of the FMV title The Bunker, because that went awful. I mean, I think my computer's just not up to snuff with these newfangled games that come out, because it's an FMV game, and every time an FMV clip played, the stream would completely freeze up. So that just looks awful. Next Wednesday, I'm going to try and play something a bit more, let's say, easygoing on the old machinery. So yeah, I'm new at this. I mean, the first stream ever I didn't archive because I forgot to check that little box in the Twitch settings that says automatically archive streams. I didn't even know that thing was a thing until after I streamed my first game, which went quite well, I think. That was Alamo by Himalaya Studios. And the second one here, The Bunker, that did save, but like I said, the stream went quite awfully. So I am going to get better at Twitch streaming, and you are very, very welcome to check in every Wednesday when I stream games. And if you just want to see me play games without me waffling about and not figuring out what to do, etc., you can always go to my YouTube channel, which is on my website, spacequesthistorian.com. There's a link to it because the actual URL for my YouTube is youtube.com/my-real-name, which is an awful name, and it's quite hard to spell. So just go to spacequesthistorian.com. There's links to everything that I do ever. But that's not what I'm actually here to talk about today, because today we are finishing up our two new segments, or old segments. Let me try that again. Today we are carrying on with the two segments that are in these extra episodes. Yeah, that's the one. The extra material, of course, is the continuation of the music talk with Brandon Blume, Ken Allen, and James Mulvale. And today they are going to be talking to me about randomization in music and happy accidents, which is always good fun when you're doing music. Just hit anything and just see what comes out of the speakers. That's always good fun. And of course, we'll carry on the conversation with Francisco Gonzalez about if the Space Quest games hold up today and what grievous design flaws they put in the games, which of course are all in Francisco's mind. I mean, the man is borderline dementic. That's not even a word. I should really write scripts, shouldn't I? I really should. I'm much better with scripts. So anyway, sorry for rambling. Like I said, I didn't have time to sit down and actually write out a script for this, so this is all off the cuff. This is just fresh out of the brain sewage that runs through my head on a normal day-to-day basis. So maybe I should just stop talking and play the music talk segment, which again is about randomization and happy accidents in music. And after that, we'll check back in with Francisco about if the Space Quest games hold up, which of course they do. But anyway, you should listen to that for yourself. Anyway, enough rambling, because now I'm doing it again. Here are the three fabulous gentlemen of the music world: Brandon Blume, Ken Allen, and James Mulvale. Take it away, gentlemen. Yeah, that was another question I asked the last time we were recording this, was that if you'd ever tried to sit down and let the computer make the music for you in air quotations, because one of my friends, he's a good composer and he knows how to write a tune, but his favorite pastime is to load up some sequencer and just hit the random key and then hit record and have it do like 6 minutes of just it going off, and then he'll put a bass drum under it and he'll call it minimalist techno. Have any of you guys dabbled in that sort of thing, Brandon?
No. I think we've all unanimously said last time that we were kind of against any kind of computer-controlled non-human composition of any kind, but I do like it when it's controlled. So if the computer spits out something that you could repeat or use in certain areas, then you're still composing with it, which is cool, but I wouldn't let a computer do anything and just take it as complete.
Yeah, because I guess what I was getting at was just for the sake of completeness, we were talking about randomized elements the last time, and then of course we had to bring up the hellish bells from the Professor Lloyd theme in Space Quest 4. So Ken, if you would indulge me, just tell the story again about how you arrived at those insidious bells.
Right. Well, anyone who's heard this track on MT32 is really missing out. I was trying to reproduce the sound of the water bell, which, if you've seen the video of a water bell playing, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a giant oversized glass with a rope going down the middle, and then it's filled with water. And as you strike it with a mallet, you tilt the water phone, I think it's called, and the pitch changes, and you get this very eerie sounding thing that's been used in a lot of films. And I wanted that same instrument in the Professor Lloyd's, and I was trying to reproduce the water phone on FM synthesis, and I was just not getting it, not getting close, and the voice editor, instrument editor that we had a randomized button. So I just, screw it. Let me just start pressing this until I get something. And I'd press it and I'd press it and get something that didn't sound like anything more useful. I think after about 10, maybe 13 tries, the lucky number 13. But after many, many attempts, the randomized button finally made something that was useful, and that's how I got that the beginnings of the hellish bell sound in that song. I did tweak it a little more to make it slightly more hellish, but I think it's the only time I've ever allowed the randomized button on a MIDI patch editor to work its way into any music that I'd done. Usually when I'm creating a customized sound or sound effect, I get down into the brass tacks of the MIDI technology, and I know how to mix waves together to get the sounds that I wanted. So that, I think, is the only time that I've allowed randomization to creep into any of my work.
Okay, so I of course know that James, you said last time that no, you don't let the computer just do random stuff. But let me pose a different sort of related question then. Can you think of a happy accident that wound up in a finished piece of music? Something that just
a great question,
came in from complete left field.
I think everything involves some sort of happy accident. I don't know what. I never know what I'm doing until I start.
Well, no one does.
No, exactly. But I've got something to write today, and whatever comes into my head, isn't it? So I don't know. Everything seems to be a happy accident. I feel very lucky to have so many accidents.
That'll be your epitaph, James. I'm a happy accident.
Here lies James. What a happy accident. Wait, that's not cool if he gets run over by a bus or something.
This would be a happy accident.
Happy for some people, maybe? I like doing what, if I'm looking for some kind of randomization in composition or something different, change it up, I'll take my own songs and play them completely backwards, and sometimes you get some interesting ideas out of that.
I used to. For some reason, I did a tracker version back when I was a teenager of "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen" because I'd heard that on the Rise of the Triad soundtrack, and I thought it was a kick-ass piece of music. Lee Jackson, who did the soundtrack, did this rock and roll version of "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen." So I tried to do the same thing in a tracker, and once it was up tempo, and once it got to the end, it flew back to the first pattern, but the speed had completely floored. Like it was really going in like really, really low, like doom metal kind of tempo. And I was just sitting there listening to it going, this is pretty cool as well. So I basically did two versions of it. I just, floored the tempo, and that was a complete happy accident. Brandon, any happy accidents that just, wound its way out of left field in a piece of music you've done?
Not many. Oh, maybe just searching through different instruments, looking for something, and then something will pop out that I didn't intend. One I do remember in particular was I was jamming with an old music buddy of mine, and we were both on our own guitars playing completely different things that would not go together at all. He was just practicing something, and I was practicing something, and I came up with this little chord riff progression, and then I hit a chord, and then he hit another chord, and we did it at the exact same time, and it sounded beautiful, and we both looked at each other instantly, and we're like, that is amazing, and we wrote something out of that. It was really neat. The only time that ever happened, though.
The two different chords? Like a polychord?
Two different chords. I don't even remember which ones, but it was really cool.
That sounds awesome.
I like that. Ken, any happy accidents that just completely floored you? Like, I would never have thought of that.
Nothing in my game music. I do remember in high school, I discovered that. So I played the French horn in high school, as I mentioned before. I discovered that the mouthpiece for an oboe fit perfectly into the opening of where the mouthpiece would go into the French horn. And I played the French horn with an oboe mouthpiece and got some really bizarre results. Nothing I found useful, but I thought, you know what? We need to experiment a little bit more like this because that was an awesome sound. I also later found out
the only way to push the envelope
that you could take a plastic straw and have it emulate a double reed, and so when the oboist wasn't around and being generous with her mouthpiece, I found that I could take a straw and do the same thing. So,
Brandon, you were saying? Oh yeah. Brandon, you were saying something?
Oh, I was just saying it's the only way to push the envelope and get fresh ideas,
sure.
Do bizarre things.
I think when back in my university days, we were recording. One of my friends came over for a weekend, and we decided to make a record in a weekend. What a stupid idea that was! And we've done it 4 more times since then. And we did a black metal inspired album or EP, really, just 3 songs. And by the end of it, we just wanted the whole thing to collapse. Like the Who used to do, the way they would just completely thrash out at the end. And for some reason, I don't know, maybe we were a little drunk at this point. We were recording the guitar, and I just, climbed onto his lap and started grinding my teeth down the fretboard, which in hindsight was a bad idea. But my God, that sounded fantastic. Yeah, don't ever do that because it's electric.
I think there's a Beatles track that started out with feedback that was a happy accident. Was it Day Tripper? I forget which song starts out with a feedback playing at the very, very beginning, but I think it was John Lennon who he leaned his guitar up against the amplifier and got this feedback sound, and he looked at the other guys and went, "Oh, we got to use that."
And a lot of metal music starts with just the feedback noise.
Yeah, and I think that's where Jimi Hendrix got inspired, was listening to that one piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Right, let's compose ourselves and try and do a better introduction of this segment than the one I did at the start of this episode. One thing that springs to mind is that, of course, I promised that these extra episodes would also be full of, outtakes and behind-the-scenes information about the 3rd season that you may or may not have listened to, which I, of course, hope you have. And I am also going to do that, but not not in this episode. I think I might be saving all of the good stuff, the outtakes from Pete Tolman, and, well, he doesn't do outtakes, but Joe Casara, his narrator, and, of course, Josh Mandel, who came on as King Graham, and Frederick Olsen as Cyber Cedric. There are some good outtakes in there, but not enough, I feel, to, spread out over 4 episodes. So the 4th episode is going to be chock full of funny outtakes and a little behind-the-scenes information about the episode that you listened to, or the episodes of the 3rd season that you have listened to. If you listened all the way to the end of the 12th season finale episode, there was actually some, again, off-the-cuff, unscripted brain sewage from yours truly about a bit about how the season was made and the different people who contributed to it. It was just this one long thank you rant, but there was some stuff in there as well. But yeah, so anyway, that's coming up in the 4th episode. This is the 2nd episode of the Xtra series, and we are going to be checking in with Francisco Gonzalez and continuing the delightful and amicable little lovers' quarrel that we had over the Space Quest games and what perceived flaws there might be in those. So, yeah, let's just do that then. Take it away, Francisco.
So Space Quest 2, what's the subtitle of Space Quest 2?
Yeah, Vohal's Revenge, I know.
Vohal's Revenge, right.
Who the hell is Vohal?
How much screen time does Vohal get in that game? 5 minutes, maybe.
Oh, I thought you meant the first one, which is none. And yeah, he does.
No, None, of course. He's obviously an afterthought. And now the plot of Space Quest 2 could have been interesting if they had, developed Vohal a little bit more. I mean, I know it's tricky to have to get the balance right between having a villain that you see all the time and a villain that you don't see at all. But I think that Space Quest 2 veered more towards the don't see the villain at all angle, because you really only see Vohal once at the very beginning. And yeah, okay. So the plot of Space Quest 2 is, all right, Roger's sad. He's a janitor again on a space station. He gets kidnapped. Vohal lays out his master plan of insurance salesman, which is ridiculous. But
that's a little ridiculous. I'll grant you that.
We'll go with that because whatever. It's a comedy game from the 80s. Haha, insurance salesman. That's funny somehow.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up a point about that later because I'm actually gonna agree with you on that. But carry on, sir.
Right. So then you get sent to the slave planet, and through sheer force of luck, you manage to escape, and it becomes, all right, let's get off this planet. All right, fine. So you spend the majority of the game trying to get through the dangers of this planet, and you finally escape. And when you escape, oh, look, Vohal shows up again, and he's like, haha, now I'm bringing you to my asteroid. You get to his asteroid. You wander around his giant asteroid for however long it takes you. And then you finally stumble across him. He shrinks you. You accidentally kill him off screen, I might add. And then you escape. And then you go into the non-ending of the escape pod where it's like, oh, well, you did it, but oh, no oxygen. Oh, now you're in the thing. Okay, bye. Space Quest 3 is coming next. So I want to compare this game with another game, and I brought this up in conversation the other day.
We should title this episode In Conversation. I'm sorry. Yes. It just sounds like one of those interview discs used to get in the 90s to radio.
Yeah. So let's take another game from the quote-unquote old golden age of adventure games, which also had a subtitle, Villain's Revenge. You know which one I'm talking about. Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge.
Yes, of course. Right? Yeah.
So Monkey Island 2's plot is fairly nonsensical as well. I mean, the basic plot is, Guybrush is going around looking for Big Whoop. Meanwhile, the looming specter of LeChuck is in the background. Now, let's compare how that game handles its villain with how Vohal's Revenge handles its villain. Like I already said, in Vohal's Revenge, you see him once, you see him twice, you see him a third time, and then you kill him.
And then you say, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Yeah, exactly. Now, in LeChuck's Revenge, there's the whole end of Act 1 thing where Guybrush inadvertently gets him resurrected, and then throughout the rest of Act 2, every time you get a map piece, you see him in his fortress, and he has a little cutscene, and you sort of see what's going on. And, there's even a joke made about how many times we're cutting back to seeing him. But he's there. You see that he's talking to Largo. He's like he's a threat. He's constantly saying, find me Guybrush, whatever. Mm-hmm. You finally infiltrate his fortress in the third act. You get captured. He puts you in a torture chamber. He goes through this whole elaborate plot. You escape him. You find him again. And then there's the whole showdown with him at the end. He's not on screen for very long. Like, he maybe has like 20 minutes of screen time total. But it's so much better handled, in my opinion. Like, you actually feel that he's a credible threat. He's part of the story. He's always there in the background, sort of. Like, even musically, his theme shows up all the time. And, it's kind of like, oh, crap, he shows up. And then you have this terrifying end sequence where he's, like, randomly showing up through doors and zapping you around with a voodoo doll and stuff. Whereas Vohal is just, like, he sits in a chair and that's it. He doesn't do much. Like, he's not a good villain. And he's not really, like... He's never really a threat, aside from just being like, oh, hey, I shrank you. And now I'm going to send some insurance salesman door to door. Like, if he had had more of a, he sends his random guards and stuff to find you on the planet.
I was just going to say, because he's a looming threat, and you don't need to have him poke his head in every once in a while and go, by the way, I'm still looking for that janitor. No, you don't need to do that, because everywhere you look in Space Quest 2, there's a subtle reminder that he's just off, hunting you, maybe, and you want to find some place to hide. Everywhere you try to hide, of course, ends up, being fraught with danger as well.
I feel...
But you don't need him, because once you get past the underground maze, where you finally think, oh, finally, I'm going to go somewhere where he's not going to follow me, he's not going to do anything horrible to me. And then you wind up right at the foot of his shuttle station, and you go, all right, well, I guess I'll go to his fortress. I guess I'll kick his ass then. Not because you have to, not because it's a heroic impulse, because it's the only way off this fucking planet.
I feel like the dangers of the planet overshadow the threat of Vohal, and it sort of becomes like, oh, right, him. I forgot about him. I was so busy concerning myself with getting off this planet, now I have to deal with him again. He's just kind of like, oh, well, no, he's convenient to the plot again. Let's bring him up.
Well, yes and no. I see what you mean. I see what you mean, that he's not, he doesn't follow the typical narrative structure where you've got a villain, so you have to keep reminding the audience that there is a villain. But there's the main part of Space Quest 2, which is why I say the plots to Space Quest 1 and Space Quest 2 are fundamentally the same. It's that it's survival. You're dropped into some locale, and you're expected to survive this and get the fuck out of there.
Sure, but at least in Space Quest 2... As I said before, the goal of trying to get the star generator away from the Sarians is at least there from the beginning, whereas
that would be the first game, right? You said 2. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I meant 1. Yeah, in 1,
someone's going to raise their finger at that. Yeah. So I just had to.
It'll probably be Gareth.
Yes.
So it just Space Quest 1. To me, feels a little bit more like it knew what it was doing from the beginning. Like, the thing too overall generally with 1 through 4, and I know you mentioned this on Twitter, is that Scott Murphy kind of had this whole make it up as we go along thing, and that's fine. It's there's fun bits in the Space Quest games, but it really feels more, at least in the first 4, it feels more like you're just kind of going from set piece to set piece than actually progressing with the story. Like, this is especially apparent in Space Quest 3, where there's a lot of cool locations. The garbage freighter is cool. Fleabutt and Fleabutt and Ortega are cool. Monolith Burger is fun. Scumsoft is a little less fun, but still kind of fun. But so Space Quest 3, the main plot doesn't kick in until like the last 75% of the game, because again, it's cool. It introduces the idea of actually questing through space and being able to fly to different planets and stuff, but you have to play a dumb arcade sequence. Well, Astro Chicken, whatever.
It's dumb. I know.
But it's
purposefully dumb. Again, it is dumb. It is flipping the bird not only at and the entire third game, in fact, is where I think the whole punk rock spirit gels at its finest. Because
gels.
Yes.
That's funny you say that.
Yes. Good catch, sir. because it is the biggest middle finger that they could ever shove, both at the hand that feeds them, so to speak, at Sierra themselves, at the game industry at large. That's what Astro Chicken is. It's just a big middle finger to the games industry at large, and at the players themselves. Again, if you're not in on the spirit of it, then you're just going to go, wait, where am I going? What's this all about? Why am I even doing this? That's the answer. The answer is actually, why am I doing this? It's got this very survival aspect to it, but it also has this kind of a nihilistic approach to it, where it is, you don't actually need a purpose other than to, get the fuck home, and then things start piling up on you.
Right.
So much like life, really.
I suppose so. But I mean, it would have been all right if you could the finding the two guys thing was a little bit more drawn out, rather than just, oh hey, okay, let's go here, let's disable the thing, let's go to the moon, there they are, that's it. If it felt like, or if it was introduced slightly earlier on, then it would be all right. But the whole thing of the subplot with like the Arnoid coming to get you for the whistle thing, that just, I mean, it's fun, it's cool and everything, but it just feels like unnecessary padding at the start of the game.
You could argue that, and I would also agree that the whole subplot with the two guys and having been captured and you have to go and rescue them, that's not explained very well. In fact, as I've pointed out a number of times, you can actually complete the game without getting the secret message from the Astro Chicken machine. And I'm guessing here that most players didn't actually bother beating Astro Chicken because fuck Astro Chicken. They just went about their merry ways, and then they went, why am I going here? Who are these guys? Why am I saving them? So, there are, I'm not saying these are perfect examples, the Space Quest games. There are things that could have been handled better, but in spirit, and this is if I could briefly go back to Space Quest 2 for a second, just to fuel your nightmares a bit. This is the one thing that about Space Quest 2 where I would agree that the whole insurance salesman gambit is so kind of like, all right, he has to be doing something. He's not actually a threat to your home planet. Now he's a threat to you. He's a threat to Roger, and I completely disregard everything you say about LeChuck versus Vohal. I think he is omnipresent in Space Quest 2. You have a ton of shit to deal with, and then you have him on top because he's looming right in the distance. You don't need to see him to know that he's looming. But the thing you have to defeat him for is very sort of Douglas Adams-ish almost. Like, insurance salesman, really? That's going to drive people insane? Probably, yeah. I guess it's funny on the surface, but not really. However, the third one, the actual threat, is not to the galaxy at large. It is, again, flipping the bird at, games management, the sort of corporate environment that games production was becoming at the end of the 80s and start of the 90s. People with suits coming in and starting to make decisions that they were not qualified to make and such. That's what Space Quest 3 is throwing the middle finger up at, with the whole saving the guys from being trapped within this evil software company. And, that's why the spirit of the third game is when it completely gelled for it. Because 1 and 2, they're kind of feeling their way through, especially the first one. I'm really surprised you like the story in the first one, because 1, it's completely lifted from Wrath of Khan, and and 2 it was followed on from 1 very, very quickly. So it is a very, very seat of your pants thing again. 3, they took their time, and if they had just. I agree, if they had just introduced that whole 2 guys from Andromeda mechanic or bit a bit earlier or a bit more clearer, like you get a message like Arnoid has been fucking with them or something that didn't involve having to beat the Astro Chicken, then that would have been an 11 out of 10 game. Yeah, it's a good game. It's just hurt slightly by bad pacing is all. Is my opinion on Space Quest 3. Right, but I do like the way that it starts and closed, then it opens up, and then by the third act it traps you again. Sure, it's a very nice 3 structured approach to that. Yeah, it is.
It's just,
I have stumped you.
Well, my goal wasn't to come here to completely destroy the Space Quest games. It was just to present my opinion on why they were a bit weak in the story department. Now, I want to talk about Space Quest 4.
Yes, so do I. I could
And
all day
Space
doing that.
Quest 4, I really enjoyed Space Quest 4 when I was a kid, and I thought it did some really cool things, and I liked a lot of it. Now I see it as a game that's good, but has so much missed potential and so much missed opportunity.
If we can quickly go back to the Snapchat you sent, or the Snap, I'm sorry, that's what the kids are calling it.
Yeah.
Your one review of Space Quest 4 was, if I'm remembering correctly, flipping it the finger.
No, I only gave the finger to 2. The rest were, Or did
okay. Did
I give it the finger as well?
I think you gave it. I think 2 and 4 got the finger. 1
think
got
they
the
might
meh. 3 got the meh. 6 got the meh, and 5 got the
5
enthusiastic
got the thumbs up. Right. Maybe I did give it the finger. Okay. Well, all right. So
We'll never know. Thanks, Snapchat.
we'll never remember. Yeah. Thank you, Snapchat, and my terrible memory. So all right. So Space Quest 4 was trying to be a lot more epic, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I think that trying to mix telling a huge epic story with the, as you call it, punk rock sensibilities of Space Quest doesn't really work, because Space Quest is, like you say, sort of the antithesis of the whole like big quest epic story thing. Mm-hmm. So I mean, the potential for telling an interesting story was there, but it sort of got lost in the whole going from interesting set piece to interesting set piece thing. Because you have the whole Vohal somehow preserved his consciousness and sent himself to the future thing. That's never really explained. Like, you get the whole exposition from Dr. Lloyd at the beginning, where he talks about how, in the future, Xenon was developing the supercomputer and they found this box, Leisure Suit Larry, in space, and they picked it up. And
see, the 4th Leisure Suit Larry game.
Right,
the
right.
Missing one.
The missing one, right. So there's this whole sort of like meta intertextual joke thing happening where you have, Leisure Suit Larry 4 and King's Quest 64 and all this crap, which is kind of funny now when it's like, oh, it's 12 gigabytes. That's so big. And now it's like, man, there's certain games that 12 gigabytes, I wish they were 12 gigabytes.
Like the DLC is 12 gigabytes.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's already sort of marred by this sort of silly, oh, haha, wink, wink, look, it's Leisure Suit Larry. But, like, they never really explain how Vohal put his consciousness onto a disc and sent it into space. Maybe it was an emergency backup plan he had or something. We don't really know. But so Vohal infects the supercomputer, destroys Xenon, tries to find Roger Wilco, and they have to go back in time.
Travel.
Yeah, invents time travel. They have to go back in time. Like, did he invent the sequel police too, I guess?
Oh, sure he did.
Sure. They have to go back in time to find Roger, because at the end of the game he poses that question, why wasn't I available in this time? What happened? And Roger Jr. is just like, oh, sorry, I can't tell you anything. It would mess up the time stream or whatever. Mm-hmm. So there's an interesting story there, but we don't really see any of it at all until the very end, where we get a really long, stupid cutscene where it's just 2 guys standing in front of each other with their mouths moving for a bit.
Which was epic in 1991.
Oh, sure, it was epic in 1991. It was great. But, you have this whole big epic story that could have been told, and Space Quest 4 is basically, hey, let's go to the mall.
I see where you're going. Might I suggest that you broaden the horizon slightly, a bit more than that, because Space Quest 4 is actually a giant, fantastic, epic story that you don't hear any of, because you go through time instead. The entire conceit of the game is that you're not actually playing Space Quest 4, you're jumping through sequels instead. This the biggest middle finger they could ever throw at anything. And by this point, in 1991, the two guys were getting kind of burned out. So at this point, they weren't even, trying to pull punches. They were just, flat out middle fingering everyone. And Space Quest 4 is definitely that, because, people were just going, when's the next chapter? What's going to happen in the future? Well, I'll fucking tell you. And then through a fucking time warp you go.
Well, I mean, yeah, that manifests itself the most with the joke with the hint book, which I always thought was funny because, yeah, it's like you're getting hints for all these ridiculous things. And yeah, okay, that's in Space Quest 4, but you never actually play Space Quest 4 because you're jumping through sequels, as you said. Mm-hmm. So, but the thing, too, is like the whole Volhal's plot thing is basically in Space Quest 12, which you do spend some amount of time in. Mm-hmm. But the thing, too, is the time travel mechanic is completely wasted, in my opinion, as well. Because, yeah, all right, it's funny, it's clever, you're going through Space Quest sequels. That's an interesting way to present time travel. But it could just have easily have been visit other planets, because there's really nothing time travel-y about it. Yeah, okay, you go to different sequels. Okay, there's a bit where you go to EGA Space Quest 1. That's funny. There's an Easter egg where you can go to Ortega and just die. That's funny, too. But there's no, like, time travel puzzles. There's no cause and effect puzzles. There's no, like, oh, let's go and... they could have done something clever where maybe there was like an item you needed in Space Quest 2 that would have helped you like get through something.
So
Roger,
yeah. The whole paradox thing, the Day of the Tentacle kind of thing.
Yeah, like let's say you're maybe like in I don't know, just as a stupid example, like maybe there's like a mining helmet in the cave in Space Quest 2 that you could have attached the gem to and made it so much easier. But Roger goes to Space Quest 2 and like he takes the mining helmet for a puzzle that he needs, and so that's not there. Kind of like the joke in Zack McCracken where there's a bottle of gas, or there's a canister of gasoline, of like chainsaw gasoline. Mars and stuff like that.
Which would have been very useful in Maniac Mansion.
Exactly. So, like Roger takes useful items from the previous space quests that would have made his quest so much easier or something. Jokes like that could have been funny.
That would have been very funny. That's not a stupid example. That's a very good one. I applaud that one.
Well, thank you. Or just like some sort of cause and effect thing, like where you change something in Space Quest 10 and then some obstacle that is in Space Quest 12 is no longer there because like maybe you killed him or some guy like a guard or something. You kill him in an earlier game and he doesn't come back because he's dead or whatever. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. That could have been. I feel like that could have been, handled slightly in more of a creative way. But as it is, it's just kind of like, okay, well, let's travel through time, but we're just going to a planet that could have just been easily reachable in a space station or a spaceship, and now a mall. And like, I used to love the mall when I was a kid. I still like the mall. I think it's fun that you get to go to the different stores, and maybe the drag puzzle is a little out of taste in today's world, and it's kind of ridiculous.
That's the one part where I'll say, yeah, that's a product of its time.
And the latex babes too. The latex babes and their whole like, oh, we're gonna kill you with a leg hair remover. It's pretty stupid too, but whatever.
That does hurt, by the way.
What's that?
That does hurt, by the way.
Oh yeah, I know. But so like the thing with the mall is, basically, it's also a wasted opportunity because aside from like getting the hint book, which it helps you find a couple of time coordinates and like the code for the supercomputer. It's the whole purpose of it is to just kind of like, okay, get the money to buy the connector for the laptop, which you don't even really need.
No, that's an optional puzzle. That's not even what you do. The entire point of the mall is to get the hint book. That's really it.
Yeah.
To get the final time code. Which does beg the question, what the hell are time codes doing in the hint book for Space Quest 4 that does not have but then again, we never see Space Quest 4. Maybe the time pod did show up in it. Yeah.
And then it's also got the code for the supercomputer, which is not in Space Quest 4.
Exactly. But again, the whole Space Quest 4 as the game that was released, not the in-game Space Quest 4. Space Quest 4 is, by and large, you spend a lot of the time on Space Quest 1, 2, and 3 bitching about how these are just set pieces loosely connected together. And then Space Quest 4 shows up with a grand explanation or a grand excuse to just throw set pieces at you without having them connected causality because, hey, you're just jumping through
Space Quest 4 is the king of the set pieces. It's nothing but set pieces.
That is true. It is. But it gets away with it, at least in my money, for my money, because it doesn't have to narratively tie them together. Yes. It's only going to get more and more interesting from here on in. So please do, of course, remember to check back next Wednesday when there's going to be another extra episode. That would be the third one. And then after that, the next Wednesday again, it's going to be the fourth one. And I'm going to stick all the outtakes and funny bits that didn't make it into the actual season itself into that show, including Pete Tolman's full rendition of the Manic Street Preachers game design for life, as he calls it, or a design for life as the original was. Barring any copyright notices and such, I don't think the Manic Street Preachers lawyers are going to be listening to this show, so I think I'm cool as far as that goes. But anyway, yes, thank you so much for tuning in to this second extra episode of the podcast. Please, if you haven't already, go subscribe and go check out my YouTube channel and go check out the Twitch streams happening every Wednesday. Although, again, I must stress, don't go and check out the play of The Bunker, which is just awful. But I am going to be playing a different game next Wednesday, one that will not cause my machine to utterly crap itself. So that's all over on SpaceQuestHistorian.com. And until then, please have fun, be nice, be wonderful people. I love you all dearly. Dearly. That comes from the heart. Oh, God, I really should be writing scripts, shouldn't I? Anyway, yes, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will, of course, see you around the Chrono Stream.